Let's ask a story about, tell me a time when you felt most peace. When you link it to a story of your own experience, you can understand what peace is. You don't have to describe peace in a terminology. You can just describe the experience of it. And then you can think, well, what is it that I can do to create this more frequently in my life? What is it that I can do to help my community in this way, for peace to become and develop into the community at large? What is it that I can do to really build this into a new culture? This is something that we're doing in the conversations, but it's also something that we're doing in legislation, which is HR 808 for a cabinet-level Department of Peace and Non-Violence, which takes peace and the highest aspirations of peace, the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, of Martin Luther King, of Christ, of all of these amazing figureheads that we have to look at, and it takes their ideals and it puts them into practical policy that supports through education the teaching of non-violent conflict resolution, of mediation, of looking at the other as an aspect of oneself, but being able to do that practically, not only spiritually. And when we can do that, when we can teach our children to do that, and when we can communicate using peaceful language, instead of somebody shooting a picture, they take a picture. Little things like that, we really have to look at our language. When we really can communicate with integrity, we give our children the skills that they need so that they don't have to resort to violence when there is a difference, that they can really overcome difference and they can celebrate difference, because there really is beauty in all of the spices of life. And so the Department of Peace really brings that in, and through conversation we can make it real to people. So that's what we're about, looking at the quickening, the turning point of how we can really elevate our thoughts and use our own experience and the power that is within us to transform society and to create the world that we want to live in.
Okay, what do you see as the difference between the Department of Defense, Department of War, and the Department of Peace?
The Department of Peace really would be a department that, before we get to this crunch point of conflict, we have an enormous time when we can see that there's something that might be brewing here, and we have the opportunity to resolve it before it comes into the jurisdiction of the Department of Defense. We can look at the more human-centered approach to what peace is and how we can not only not resolve conflict, but just avoid conflict altogether. So the Department of Peace really is about creating a culture of peace. It's about teaching children how to use non-violent conflict resolution, how to communicate peacefully, how to put those principles into our organisational structures, how to turn around domestic violence, child abuse, spousal abuse, gang violence, racial tensions, police-community relations clashes. It's about very domestic application, but we also have the component which is international. So we look at policies, how if we pass this proposal, how that would affect somebody else, how that might possibly create conflict, or how we can write things to create more, more alignment. Earlier you spoke about competition, and we have to look at sort of economic policy as well. We have to really see that in a competition there are winners and there are losers. And when we really look at international relations, instead of now where we have foreign policy, we need international policy. Slight change again in terminology, so that we can work in cooperation with other countries, so that we can work in cooperation with other economies. We don't have to come up against each other and become dominant and subversive. We have to really work together on, and how we can... Shall I start again? So Department of Peace would be looking at legislation internationally and domestically, and how we can really support a culture of peace, as opposed to getting to the point where we need to resolve conflicts or fight in conflicts.
It sounds like our country would be coming from, with a Department of Peace, it almost sounds like we'd be coming from a place of love instead of a place of fear.